Good evening, everybody. I'm DJ Spoony here apparently to give you a DJ Masterclass, using that second word very loosely. I've been a full-time professional DJ now for about 27 years. A brief potted history, life, career. I grew up in Hackney, not a million miles from here. Fell in love with, at a local youth club, the art of DJing. I saw a friend at the youth club playing a record, then he played another record, but there was no gap in between, and I was like that's like magic. That's like, do that again. And he did it again. I'm like, right, you need to show me how to do that. I was 15 years old, and he came round to my house about 4 days later. I remember us setting up 2 Pioneer belt-driven turntables. We set them up in the kitchen. My mum made sure that I had to wash the dishes and clean the kitchen before we could DJ in there. He showed me how to mix, and I kind of understood it and I got it. At the time at school, I was playing the trombone, so I understood how music was broken down and phrasing and bar counting and stuff like that anyway. So I suppose that gave me a little bit of an advantage. Then started work. My first job was just down Kingston Road on what used to be the job centre on Kingston Road. I was there for about 7 years. And around 1995, I know you're all thinking he's not that old. I know that's what you're thinking. About 1995, I decided that I wanted to give myself a better opportunity to DJ more. I was a civil servant. I had a 9-to-5 job, not conducive really to being out late, filling out record reports and clubbing. So I thought, I'm going to get myself another job, a job that's going to give me a little bit more freedom. But by that time, I already had financial responsibilities, so I couldn't just throw everything up in the air and try and be a DJ. So I got a job that allowed me to expand and explore what this world of DJing was like. I'd already at that stage done a couple of pirate radio shows, and as now just about to embark on a new radio station that was up and running, playing this genre of music called UK Garage. And this was about 1995, and the station is London Underground, which at the time for the genre of music was, and I might be a little bit biased here, the best. There was another station in North London called Freak FM, which was also very good, but just not quite as good as our station. So I'm now just leaving the job centre, and I took up another job. And after about a year, there was like a perfect storm happening where I was starting to get some bookings. You know, I was getting into bed late on a Sunday night and having to get up early on a Monday for work. And one day I sort of plucked up the courage and said to my boss, look, DJing thing's kind of taken off. It's going quite well. Is there any chance I could go part-time? So can I work 4 days a week? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I was in sales, so I said, if you take that 1 day a week out of my salary pro rata, but give me all of my sales bonus, how's that? He's like, yeah, okay, let's do that. Which at the time I didn't realise that I needed to have those skills to negotiate with promoters who are the bane of this job, but we'll come back to that. So I had this extra day of week now, which meant that I could take all of the Sunday bookings that I wanted to. I had an extra day on a Monday to do all of my record reports, because at the time you'd get vinyl sent to you, and you'd have to report back, do your charts, let them know that you're playing it, where you're playing it, and all of this stuff. This is sort of like the DJ admin I used to do on a Monday. But that extra day a week meant that the growth was exponential. So suddenly now I've got even more work than I did. So 3.5 months later, I had to go back to my boss and say, look, I know we had that little deal and it's gone really well, but is there any chance that I could go to 3 days a week? So I only want to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm going to be off Fridays and Mondays. If there's a big deal come in and I need to come into the office to the meeting, he said, like, fine, you can keep your sales stuff. And the reason I'm telling you this is because it's quite important to how my career developed. Another 3 months has gone past, and as you can imagine now, it's gone sort of there. We've now been offered a show on Kiss FM at the time. Kiss were on Holloway Road, massive stage. They were huge at the time. I went to my boss. I said, look, that's it now. The DJing is taking up too much time. It's progressing. I'd hooked up with 2 guys that happened to be, the 2 most important things that happened in my DJ career, in Timmy Magic and Mikey B. We formed a dream team, and UK Garage was flying. The dream team was flying. We had our radio show, and now 1997's come, and I'm a full-time professional DJ. And I remember thinking, clearly thinking to myself, if I'm able to do this for a year and it lasts for a year, I would gladly and happily go back to work doing a 9 to 5 to say that, yeah, but I used to be a professional DJ, and have that year on my CV. And I don't know if I was working towards being one of the best DJs ever or working away from just not having to do a 9 to 5, but somewhere in between, 27 years later, here I am. A career that has taken me, around the world. I've played in Miami and South Africa and New York and Mexico, played in Hong Kong. Obviously, the stuff in Ibiza, I still have an Ibiza residency. IEMs, which UK Garage effectively owned from 1999 to 2004. I've had quite an extensive broadcasting career as well. In 1997, we were at KISS for about 18 months. Then we went on a station called Galaxy, which you couldn't actually get in London. So we were on Galaxy for about 6 months. At the time, there's a little bit of a misconception that garage music was only for London. But Galaxy at the time, our show was syndicated to many of the big cities in the UK, Cardiff, Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, Newcastle. So suddenly we were able to start growing the sound around the country. And 6 months later, Radio 1 came in and said, look, we want you to come and join. And we joined Radio 1 in 2000, stayed there for about 6 years, which was phenomenal for Timmy, Mikey, myself, and for UK Garage, more importantly, because we're able to bring so much new music through, so many new artists. We played, Craig David before he was, Miss Dynamite, MJ Cole, Wookie, Zed Bias, the list goes on. Just people who have gone on and had absolutely phenomenal careers because of the position that we were in. We were able to play and break that music. Going all the way back to a 15-year-old now in mum's sort of kitchen and maybe a little bit after. I was very much a turntablist, so I was someone who was very much into scratching and chopping and juggling. And then I discovered house music and then was trying to incorporate those largely hip-hop techniques and skills into playing house music. And even though house music was made, the tracks are longer and longer breaks, longer intros, longer outros, which are more designed for mixing, I thought I would have my own little USP by, scratching some intros or scratching some acapellas or looping or phasing the beats or whatever it was that I was doing. My thing was to try and add my own little unique touch to what I was doing. And yeah, that was the thing. I think people kind of got used to me coming to hear house music and seeing or hearing me scratch. I used to practice a lot more than I do now. And that was it really. Here we are. Last year, July, I started my latest journey on broadcasting Friday nights on BBC Radio 2. We play some great music. I know I'm biased about that, but I'm really passionate about music. I'm a soul boy at heart. I love my reggae music, but I love my house music and tempo because that's kind of been so important and instrumental in my life. So that's me kind of in a nutshell. What I say is whether or not, I mean, the percentages of success, whatever your measure of success is, are quite slim. I think it's getting harder now because of technology. In many ways, I think it's made it easier for people to be DJs. That said, I think it's an unbelievable hobby to have. So whether you do it professionally full-time or not, I think it's one of the best things that you can have. And respect from your peers, again, is one of the best things. And so you've got all of that to look forward to.
What do you listen to when you're not producing?
I know it's a bit of a cliche now. I have a really diverse music taste that actually goes back to, being a kid, being 5 or 6, where there weren't many outlets for like radio stations or TV. And I was definitely someone who's so much into music. I wasn't, other than watching football on the TV, I wasn't really that bothered about the TV, but I used to listen to the radio all the time. So I will go back to being 5 or 6 and listening to, loving and enjoying Bob Marley or Stevie Wonder, or a little bit later on in my life it was Prince. But I also equally loved Supertramp and Fleetwood Mac and The Police and Madness. So I have a real diverse music taste. So last night, for instance, because I've still got all of my vinyl, I was listening and I listened to the new album by Terry Walker. And then I took that off and put on Supertramp's Breakfast in America, which, if you don't know of Supertramp, it's a brilliant album. Like, that album is worth every penny. Yeah.
How do you think streaming services has affected dance genres like house and drum and bass and garage and kind of that kind of form of genre in a way?
Technology for me is just, it's made everything more accessible. I think because growing up for me, music was always, it was something that I desired. It was something that you would look forward to the weekend, to trying to find that next tune. It was aspirational. It's something that you wanted to reach for all the time. I think what's happened now, because of technology and the world moves on, everything is there. I think the downside of that is music has become a little more disposable as a result of that. So, for instance, I would get a track on a Friday, you know, exclusive. There might only be a few of us that have it, and I would play that on the radio every week, maybe for the next 3 or 4 weeks, and maybe play it 5 out of 7 weeks if it was a real banger. So say like when Miss Dynamite's Boo came out, we played that, I don't know, every week for 8 or 9 weeks. Now, because music comes out so quickly, that track might get played 1 week or maybe 2 weeks, and then the DJs will feel under pressure to go on to the next thing because their inbox is just inundated with music. You know, I used to have to get on a bus and a train to go and buy a piece of record or buy a piece of vinyl, which meant I was so invested in that one piece of vinyl that I wasn't just going to play it once and then discard it. Where now I could be eating my breakfast and download my next set for Ibiza. Am I as invested in the music? Maybe not. And that is maybe the downside of it just being so accessible all the time.
What was your favourite set and what was your favourite era of garage music?
I used to have a residency at a club called Twice as Nice. I used to play there every Sunday at the Coliseum in Vauxhall, and it was the place where everybody went. So even the DJs and MCs that weren't booked, they would come and hang out there. A-listers were there all the time. I mean, when the Hollywood actors and actresses would come into the UK, it'd be like, that's really where you want to go. The vibe and the atmosphere at Twice as Nice every week was amazing. So if one of my favourite sets would have to be one of the bank holidays at Twice as Nice, or for different reasons, Pete Tong used to have a show called Essential Selection, which was basically a guest show for loads of people. And we had an Essential Selection live from Pizzazz in Ayia Napa the year before we joined the station. And whenever I listen to that, I get goosebumps because the audio, the crowd noise, the energy, it's just electric to transport yourself back, and you know, nearly 25 years to that. So yeah, I mean, you have those kind of sets that were great, and then you have the other ones where technically everything's right and you select all the right tunes and people go mad. But those two, for those reasons, I'll never forget.
Do you prefer mixing on vinyl or like CDJs?
Wow. So this is the thing, that I'm one of those weirdos that likes to keep himself like honest. So every now and again, I will swap out my CDJs at home, put on my 1210s to just keep perfecting the craft of DJing, because it's such a different technique. It really is a complete different skill set. So even though I learnt to play on vinyl, you know, there was a period where I might have gone 10 years without not mixing, and then you get back on it and you're like, oh, wow, this is very, very different. You know, the fact that you don't have all the digital effects on the actual CD player, what happens when you try and manipulate the piece of vinyl, and it goes like that, it's just real different. But it's brilliant to do it, because what I actually know is there's not many of us that do. So you feel a little bit special when you get a mix and you can hold a mix. It's nice to know that. And here's the thing about DJing that most people won't tell you, right? It's actually quite competitive, but coolly competitive, because no one wants to look like they are competing, but everyone wants to drop a flex when they can. So I dropped a wicked flex on some friends of mine not too long ago, and I turned up and played on vinyl when everyone else played on CD, just because I could. And just so yeah, it's a little bit cheeky of me, but yeah, I love the craft of doing it on vinyl, and I think just because it takes me back to being young Jonathan in Hackney.
I really want to learn how to DJ, particularly with like phrase mixing and like scratching like later on, but phrase mixing, I think I really want to know how to do that, but I'm a bit confused about how to how to start? Do you know any like resources or YouTube tutorials that you may suggest?
I
that
mean,
can
not
learn from.
not sort of specifically that, but I mean, this is the other side of it, that there is so much more information available. After this, I'm going to look that up and find out where and what and how. And it might be one of those things that I'm actually already doing and didn't know that's what it was called. But the one thing that I'd say on all of that is whatever it is that you do, whatever it is that you want to do, it's the practice, it's the desire to perfect your craft and to keep perfecting it and to keep learning. That's really, whatever it is that you're doing, that's going to have to be the thing that motivates you.
You know, you say you listen to a lot of genres. Did you ever feel pressured to prioritise garage because it might be easier to sort of make a name for yourself in one scene? Or did you ever, or have you been able to sort of play into that collection when you were DJing and sort of show the depth of your knowledge and variety?
It's a great question. Because actually I think my career largely happened the other way around. So once I was established, I was able then to go, I'm going to play this. DJing largely is a relationship between yourself and the people on the dance floor. It gets better once there's an element of trust. So what I found was when I was as a resident, that I could get away with playing stuff that the other DJs might not have played because they were not sure how it might be received. But I knew I play to these people every week. So they're going to trust me to play something that they don't know, but they know that I would know that they might like it. So they give me that extra little bit of latitude. When you have the sort of the experience and the confidence of building up that relationship with people, then you don't feel the pressure to go, oh, I can't play that and I can't play that. Now, some people will book me going, I want DJ Spoony to come and play a garage set. And I have to respect that. And I have to actually be very grateful and humbled that I've been able to have a professional career, which is so heavily associated and steeped in a scene like that. Because there's most probably not many of us that you could go, wow, say that name, it's that scene. Say that name, it's that scene. It's a luxury to have that. But it's also beautiful to turn up where people go, actually, he just selects and plays good music. And then I can feel that if I want to play deep tech or Afro or UK garage or UK house and then flip it into a bit of rap and then play some 80s soul and disco, that people are just going to go, wow, just like what he plays. And it's just having that sort of freedom to do that. And I would always say to people, be a DJ before you be a genre DJ if you can.
Like you just said, it's such a relationship between you and the crowd. So if you're having just like a terrible day, what do you go into your show thinking like, you know, I'm not going to let my mood mess up other people's nights?
Absolutely, I'm 100%. And I always see my time behind the decks as like a sanctuary. I see it as a time where, irrespective of what's going on in my personal life, that those people that have paid money, bugged me for guest lists to come in for free, whoever's on the dance floor, they're not really bothered about that stuff. And actually, it's an opportunity for me to forget about that stuff.
What controller would you recommend to someone starting out?
What I would say is try and get the best controller that you can afford, which is going to be as close to the club standard, so you can make that transition from what you use at home to what you're more likely to use in the club. Now, I understand there will always be financial constraints with this stuff, but what I've seen is a lot of people who get the wrong controller end up never ever getting off of that controller. So they might have big sets in big clubs and then they're playing on, you know, a little unit like that. They're not designed for club. They don't sound as good. They overheat. You know, you don't have the stuff that you really should have. That's what my advice would that be. Even if it's for presents and you're getting everyone to chip in and you're saving the money, do the best you can have to get the best controller, because actually the best controller will last the longest.
At what point in your career did you feel strong enough to push back to promote agents and people and say, when did you feel like that?
Wow. Definitely for the Dream Team, but I was like our in-house union rep, shop steward. I wanted us to be treated fairly and respectfully for the value we were bringing. That when we grew, our salaries and what we earn should grow, that we should be getting a fair share of the money that's being taken on the door. And there's a real watershed moment where in UK Garage, it used to happen in Jungle, what they would do is they'd record the sets and then they'd put a tape pack. So the tape pack would have 6 or 8 tapes from the evening of all the different DJ sets. So, it might be Timmy's set and DJ Spoony with MC Rankin and DJ EZ and Norris the Boss Windross, and then they'd put them together and then they would sell those, all right? And these tape packs at the time, I mean, these numbers might sound strange, but they would sometimes sell 5,000-6,000 copies of these 6 tape packs, £20 a shot. So I said to the promoter, look, I don't think it's right or fair that you pay me a fee to play in the club, you record my set and everyone else's set and sell it and don't give us any of that money. Oh, well, the expense. I said, okay, look, we'll just make it simple, right? If you do that again, I'm not going to play for you again. And when I get to the club, if I see anything that's plugged into record out, that's not a speaker, I'm pulling it out the mixer. Oh, don't do that because of the other sets. I said, well, we just need to have that agreement. And then that kind of became the market standard, that we all started getting paid for that sort of extra money that was being earned. That was nice to win. But it's, the thing is, DJs need promoters, promoters need DJs. It's about finding that space where everybody can eat. And it's not about exploiting people because you think that they are coming up, they're trying to make a name for themselves. Give them the encouragement. Why not give them the platform to be tomorrow's superstar rather than keep giving them £150 for 4 years? They've gone from playing, 9 till 10 the warm-up set, and you're now using them to play the main set, but you're still giving them warm-up money. So, these are the kind of conversations that I would have with promoters, and I think they just have to kind of see the resolve in your eye to know, right, he's not really going to back down here. And if you're playing in a bar and there's 20 people in there, you can't go and ask for £1,000 or £500, But if you're playing at a venue where there's 1,500 people through the door and he wants to give you £75, then you've got to say, guys, this isn't right.
In the early 2000s, what did you think of the shift from garage to grime with artists like Wiley? And what do you think are some of the biggest similarities between garage and grime?
It's evolution in music. I wasn't so aware of it when I was, say, 7 to I was 12, where you had disco, and then you had the sort of post-disco era where it was still soulful and funky, but it wasn't disco. That's just what happens. Music just evolves. And garage and grime, I think the similarities will be the tempo, will be the MCs. So where garage was vocals and MCs, they handed the baton over to just MCs, or the MCs were the vocalist. And then, grime became, whatever grime became, and then, that became, but it's what's really interesting on that is that you've got garage went to grime went to maybe dubstep or drill, or it split. And then now there's lots of sort of grime UK rap records, which are sampling garage records from 2000. So like I said, it goes in a cycle.
So I was wondering how you think about marketing and promoting and networking and the product. It's part of me that's finding it really hard about how I'm going to approach marketing and promotion and networking, because I'm not used to that. So I was wondering how you think about it, if at all.
This is a massive part of the business, and when I was starting out and I didn't have a team of people around me with years and years of expertise in that, you kind of having to be a one-stop shop to do it all. I was quite aware of the importance of both, right? Because I know some brilliant DJs that didn't market themselves very well and had okay careers. I know some very average DJs that had the best marketing that had very good careers. So it can be a little bit unfair in that way, but in the sense of, are Apple really the best phones? Are they really the best computers? Or do they have the best marketing? So really the case is, I'm always going to speak from a point of having a good, pure product. I would never say to anyone, make it all about the marketing, but how you present yourself is going to be of paramount importance, even down to the way that you turn up at a venue, how you're going to dress, how you're going to look. Whatever that look is, it has to be in keeping with who you are what you do and what you're trying to do. If you're someone who's not sort of great with marketing or putting yourself out there, then I would advise getting people around you that can do that for you.
How much of the marketing do you think is the product itself? Like some people's brand image and their brand, it's so kind of artistic that it's almost part of the product.
When you talk about how music is stylized, like how bands might be stylized, and if I think back to Prince or Michael Jackson, who were like two of my favorites, they didn't just turn up in a black t-shirt and black trousers. They had on proper outfits. This was a part of the show. Stevie Wonder, the way that he had his hair plaited and braided, and he had the beads, he didn't have to do that, but it was a part of it. I mean, I can't even get into the way that Prince and what Prince wore, because that was just like another level of marketing. But he backed it with arguably being the greatest musician that we know in our lifetime. Stevie Wonder could go in that category as well. And if we talk about all of the great musicians down the years, they all had their thing. When I think of Bob Marley, I see him in double denim, but that was his thing because he was just being chilled and cool with a football shirt. But that was his thing. He still had his thing, even though it wasn't sort of sequins and spandex. Everyone has their thing. Just have your thing.
I just wanted to ask, because you grew up in the 90s decade where both garage and even trance music was evolving at the time. So I just wanted to ask, what was it like growing up in an era where there was more than one main genre of dance music evolving, and hearing that for the first time and seeing how that's evolved today?
That's another amazing question, and I'll tell you for why. I started playing house music, or falling in love with house music around, 1987, 1988. But at that time, the subgenres were all played in one night. So you would go and hear what we would now call jungle, drum and bass, soulful house, US house, happy hardcore, all in one night. All of those DJs, Carl Cox, Pete Tong, Trevor Fung, Fabio and Groove Rider, Slipmat, they would all play on the same bill. And what happened was there just started to be little demands, and they just started to separate. So then there'll be a night where it was just jungle, Rage in London, Fabio and Groove Rider, Goldie, Chemistry and Storm. They would just be playing that music. Pete Tong, Carl Cox, they would go another way. Then you had, Turnmills in London would be playing a little bit darker and trancier. And what was beautiful about it is that you could then decide, you'd sort of hit a junction and decide, which way do I want to go? It was a beautiful thing. I went down the more soulful US house sound in that sort of cycle I spoke about, morphed into UK garage. But yeah, it was nice.
I've watched your latest DJ set for Defected in the basement. My question is, how long did it take to prepare it, and how big was for you that gig?
So, how long did it take me to prepare? So, I'm one of those people that definitely for my live gigs, I very rarely prepare like a mix. I prepare the tracks. I might have, cue points on the tracks, but I never go into a gig saying I'm going to play this, I'm going to play that, because one, I don't know what the DJ before me is going to play, and two, I don't know what the vibe of the room is going to be like. That might be the single most important thing, and then what the DJ before is going to be the second, in my opinion. So I don't really prepare for live gigs. But that Defected set, because it was going to be, I guess, recorded and it would live online forever, I just wanted to have a little bit more, that might go with that and that might go with that, but maybe I won't play that after that. So I did more preparation for that set than I do for a live set, but it was still on the fly. If you watch it, you'll just see the bits that were being made up. But that's live DJing. I'm not one of those people that have pre-done mixes and, everything is done live. There's absolutely zero syncing. And that's, don't get me wrong, I'm not sort of having a go at people who do sync, because it's like another form, but each to their own. But I like to just get in there and do it on the fly. That's just what I feel most natural for. But a little tip for the vinyl. So Rizzler papers, you put that onto the spindle, put the record on, and it starts the middle of the hole knocking and moving, because that will cause the record to jump. Tell them Spoony told you that.
How when you said you first started and
Yeah.
you were doing your first gigs and getting paid and you still had your 9-to-5 job,
Yeah.
what did you do to sort of accelerate your career to sort of break out of that 9-to-5?
It was a little bit of a perfect storm of the pirate radio station, then getting a new job, then going part-time. It kind of all happened at the same time, and then you had that little bit of a compound effect where one helped the other, helped the other, helped the other. That's really what it was. It wasn't like extra marketing or anything on my behalf. If there was anything that I thought out and planned, it was just that I would have to smash every set that I play at. I would make myself accessible to promoters, but not rinse myself out, and just have a good product. He's going to turn up, he's going to play well, people are going to dance, they're going to enjoy his set, fine. And sometimes it was really important to play your role. So a lot of my sets at the start would have been early or warm-up. And what I see a lot of people get so wrong, they don't play their role. So they'll turn up and just play all the bangers. That's not the role for the warm-up set. The warm-up set is to get the party nice. So when people are coming in and getting a drink and having a little chat, they don't want to hear the biggest tunes that are around at that time. That's not the time for that. You want to be able to build the night. So whoever is the headline, I'm not saying, you make it easy for them, but you want the promoter to have a good night. And if the promoter has a good night and you're part of that good night, then that's your win.
I'm in quite a few clubs right now, like DJing, but how do you go further than that? Like, how do you get into festivals and stuff and, like, bigger venues?
I mean, I'm having that conversation with my agent when we finish, so you can sit with us. Sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's hard work. More often than not, it's a combination of both. It's the right place, the right time, how persistent you can be. Can you build your network? Do you go out when you're not playing? Which is another really important one. I don't go out as much now when I'm not working, but when I was starting out, I used to go out and meet people and hear what was being played in the clubs, see what the vibe was like in that place that I wanted to play at. So when my opportunity came, or if my opportunity came, I kind of had an idea of what the vibe was, which is going to then ultimately make it a little bit easier for you to get booked and rebooked. Or, as it was then, I would go out, see what the vibe was, and then do a mixtape accordingly, and then give it to the promoter. So they were, we could run with this because it's similar to our night, as opposed to giving them a tape cold, and they go, we don't play this stuff. Why are you giving me this? That's the really important part of DJing and building your career that I think everybody should do. I think it's like doing your own apprenticeship for yourself. Everyone wants to have someone who does their PR, and everyone wants to have an agent and a manager. But if you're up and coming and you detach yourself from that stuff, you don't understand the business of DJing, because it is more than just being on the decks. Now, when you get to the level of Calvin Harris or Kerry Chandler or DJ EZ, you don't have to have those conversations anymore, but I guarantee you they absolutely did at the beginning.
More so ever now, promoters across the board looking at the headline talent through to the new talent, they need to see bums on seats. It doesn't actually matter. Of course, it matters about the music, but in terms of the business, they need to know that by booking you, you're going to bring people in. So I would really recommend to anybody young and on the way up, start your own night. Start showing that you're actually able to draw a crowd, and that crowd will follow you. It then goes on to your socials and everything else that goes with that. Ultimately, they need to see a return on their investment, which is an investment in bringing you in. Why do they need to bring you in as opposed to somebody else? Music aside. My
add to that would be, even if you don't have your own night, if you have 8, 10, 20 people that when you're playing will come with you and create a little vibe, a 10 people vibe, in the right venue, a 10 people vibe, people are like, wow, I want to hang out over there with those guys. Like, they look like they're having a great time. Every promoter wants that. There's not a promoter that's not going to want that. And that's just a real great way to build. That can act as the nucleus, going on from what Dave just said there, as to why someone will book you. Well, wait a minute. There's 20 people came. 20 of them, they put £10 on the ticket. I had to give him £100, but I ended up £100 up there. That's kind of how they will look at it. I know it's quite rudimental, dad maths or whatever they call it, but that's kind of how it works.
If you've got like 1 million followers on Instagram, they'd look at it and go, oh, that looks quite good. But if you've only got a couple of thousand or something, how do they know that you're going to bring the vibe?
Well, this is the thing. I think any promoter is more likely to book the person that has 1 million. But then if you have 1 million on Instagram and you turn up and you're a terrible DJ and none of your 1 million people turn up, then it's pointless. You might have 500 followers and you'll have some great content showing your skills and what you can do, and 500, posts of you DJing at your local sixth form or wherever it is, and you turn up with 20 people and bring a vibe, they're going to book you again.
There's a load of things that have changed about how to succeed in this industry over the last however many years, 20 years, especially social media, for example. But I was wondering if you have anything on your mind that people forget with all this change, people have forgotten to focus on, that's still relevant
it's again, such an amazing point. And actually, I should have offered this up. This is how good a point it did, because it is always going to be about the tunes you select and how you present those tunes. And when it comes down to it, 1 million people online, the fanciest outfits, that only works if you can deliver. So when we're talking about Stevie Wonder or Prince or Michael Jackson or Bob Marley or Taylor Swift or whoever it is, Beyonce, like we talk about Beyonce's amazing production, but when she starts singing, we don't go, but she can't actually sing. We're like, wow. And you need to put yourself in that kind of position where, you know, he turns up and he wears a hat and he always wears black glasses and da-da-da. Yeah, but have you heard the tunes that he selects? Have you seen him mix? Have you heard him mix? He's always so tight. You want to be that side of the argument. So for me, it's always going to be about the pureness of the craft. You know, Prince he'll be fastidious about that snare in the 64th bar of the 8th track on the album. That would mean as much to him as the intro on the first track on the new album. You've got to really care about your stuff like that.
Can I ask about Garage Classical?
So basically, we have taken some of the biggest garage records and reimagined them with a full orchestra. The album is available on your favourite DSP if you want to listen to. DJ Spoony presents Garage Classical. But records that you all know, that you would have heard, like I said, performed with a live orchestra. I mean, basically, my set is different because I don't really DJ at that. I present it. So it's sort of my concept and brought everybody in, and then I stand on stage and bring it all together and present. But there's a couple of little bits where I play music, but I'm not DJing. Everything you hear is live. We've done Royal Albert Hall before. It's a beautiful project to be a part of. Very proud of it. We did our first one in 2018 at Barbican. We did Barbican, then we did Hammersmith Palais, then we did Royal Albert Hall. Then we had COVID and we didn't do anything. Then we came back, we did the Roundhouse. We did Kew Gardens in 2022, which was phenomenal because that one was really special because that was like the first summer in 3 that everyone was back out and settled and being used and being okay to being around people and hugging and dancing. And we had a beautiful Thursday evening in the summer.
So I wanted to ask, in the sense of like remixing and mixing tunes, which was your favorite? Now this is, you're gonna go into like your brain library of music right now. Or which was your favorite like music to mix in the past, and what is it now in the future?
For DJing mixing?
Yeah, like DJing.
Okay, my favorite music to mix.
Or crossover, like.
I love mixing soulful house garage because the way that the tunes are made, a lot of them being songs, the construction of them means that you can really, going back to what you were saying about phase mixing, I didn't know what it was called, but it's just what we do because you're able to, the way that the tracks are made means that you can join them together seamlessly. And I know it's a bit of a cliche when people talk about the journey, but you really can go through the gears with soulful house because there's so many different little nuances to that genre. The thing with garage, because the tracks were made quite often with such a swing on it, you really have to be about your craft, otherwise it will catch you out. To the point of I sometimes think that those guys, you know, Wookie, MJ Cole, like, did they slow that down on purpose and then go out just seeing who could mix that? And do the DJs get it right? Master Steps has done a tune called Are You Ready with Richie Dan. And the intro, it's one of those ones where you go and you go, right, let me see and hear who can mix that right from the start because it's tricky. Whereas the soulful house stuff, it goes together a little bit easier. The garage, you know, you got 2-step, you got 4/4, you got 2-step with a swing, you got 2-step that's hitting the snare. It's like, it's a lot. That space between 2 records where you create a 3rd record is just it's a beautiful feeling.
Are there any particular artists right now that you're locked into?
I think it takes a while and time to just know you're going to trust that artist to keep putting out great stuff. I think now we've kind of gone as much into singles, but this is a slight contradiction. But I think over time, when I think back to like the greats, the people that I spent, you know, vast sums of money on, Masters at Work, I mentioned Kerry Chandler earlier, Roger Sanchez, Mood to Swing. These guys were just relentless with their brilliance, like everything they put out, to the point of where you go to the record shop, I wouldn't even listen to the record, I'd just see their name and buy it, and I'd save the time to listen to something else. Some of the record labels like Cutting Records, Nervous Records, these are like legendary, iconic, where I actually think they had such brilliant A&R that the A&R has done my work already, so I could just buy it because they wouldn't put out a bad record. You wouldn't get a bad Masters at Work record on Nervous Records. You wouldn't get a bad Kerry Chandler record on Cutting. it just wouldn't happen because his quality and their quality means you're going to get magic. God, I'm so bad with this, man. I should have a better system. iTunes done an update. I think it was the other day. I say that because I suddenly went from being able to easily search and find stuff to now having to shut my computer, reset it. I can't even search and find a tune. I'm having to go into Recordbox to use the iTunes drop down to find tracks. I should be better with it. I know where everything is, but I go there and find it. but I know where everything is. I try and do a little bit regularly. I use my cue points, but all this stuff's able to help you. Organising wise, I have a folder. Does anyone here use Recordbox, by the way? Yeah. What else? Serato? Any Serato? 2-ish. That's a really interesting turnaround. I suppose Pioneer and Recordbox have done such a great job in this space and market. Yeah, and it just makes it seamless. You turn up, you put your USB in, you know it's going to work as long as they've updated the firmware, which happens sometimes. Just organising just having the playlist. I don't have my playlist in iTunes. I have all my playlist in Recordbox. I don't know why I have it like that. I know some people have it in iTunes. Sometimes I wish that I had it in iTunes. I turned up somewhere to do a gig and they had a controller, but it wasn't a Recordbox controller. If I'd had my computer with my playlist in iTunes, it wouldn't have been a problem. So that time I actually got snookered. But yeah, 9 times out of 10, you're fine. That is one thing I can add, actually. One of the beautiful things about sort of being a full-time DJ or main DJ is that you can have a rider and you can tell them what you want. Because, man, I tell you, I've turned up at some gigs in the past and I don't know, what do you want me to do with this? I always take 2 USBs and I quite often take my own cable because I've turned up at places before where they have got a cable and one deck drops out because the connection's bad. So for what it costs and for what it will cost you if it's not working, plus I'm someone who's used to carrying sort of 2 25-kilogram boxes of vinyl, so an extra cable is like easy. You know, the other day I went to a gig. I was trying out in-ear headphones as opposed to over-ear, which sat in a real small little box like that, and my USBs, and I literally turned up with no bag, headphones in one pocket, 2 USBs in another. Felt ridiculous, really. Yeah, I should have just put them in a record box so I could feel like a proper DJ. But you know, the technology's there, use it.
How was your experience actually with the in-ear headphones, I guess, or the in-ear monitors as compared to the closed over-the-ear headphones, especially in a club environment where it's extremely loud? What were the pros and cons?
I don't know if I've given up too quickly. I couldn't quite get on with it. Now, habits are a funny thing. And I don't know if it's because of the tech or it's because what I'm just used to. So can I give it long enough time to get out of the habit? Because I have seen people do it. And, I mean, this was quite vain of me why I wanted to do it, is I wanted to wear this really nice hat. And I couldn't wear the nice hat and have the headphones. So I thought, if I wear the really nice hat and I have it in here, then it doesn't matter. But I didn't feel comfortable. I've not abandoned the idea yet. When I actually go into the mix, I don't want anything on my ear. I want to just use the monitors. And then having that, it felt restrictive. And I don't know if it really was, if I just thought it was. So yeah, I think I need to spend a little bit more time just in that zone to work out, is it actually me or is it, a thing?
Why don't you call yourself DJ Spoony?
Oh my God. I mean, this is meant to be like an educational seminar. Okay, it's a nickname. Have I got to tell you the honest story? It's so bait. So at school, there was, my primary schools was 6 or 7. I went to my primary school late. I'll try and make it quickly 'cause it's not really funny or interesting. There was a boy in the older school who they used to call Spoony because his head was shaped like a spoon. And they said that I looked like him, so they used to call me Little Spoony. But as you go through the school years, the people that were calling me Little Spoony all left. So now I'm as big as the other people. So Spoony just became Spoony, and then everyone just knew me around the estate as Spoony. And when I started DJing, I was very much into sound systems and like the reggae sound systems and soul sound systems, and nobody had their name. Everyone had like a nickname or a tag. Mine was Spoony. Spoony stuck. But who got the last laugh? So yeah, I'm stuck with this silly name for forever now. And thank you for having me.